All right, so as you can see, we have some very exciting films to talk about, and thank you all for coming out in such great numbers tonight. Let's now meet our special guests. To begin with, on behalf of Switzerland, My Life is a Zucchini, a film about a young boy who loses his parents but finds a new family in an orphanage. Please welcome Claude Barras. And he'll be accompanied by a translator, right? Yeah. Come on down. Next, on behalf of Canada's It's Only the End of the World, a film about a young man who returns home to the family from which he's been estranged for 12 years to tell them he's dying. Please welcome Xavier Dolan. On behalf of Sweden's A Man Called Uwe, a film about an angry and depressed old widower who finds new meaning in life from the least likely of sources. Please welcome Hannes Holm. On behalf of Norway's The King's Choice, a film about how King Haakon VII responded to the German invasion of Norway in 1940. Please welcome Eric Papa. And last but certainly not least, on behalf of Iran's The Salesman, a film about a couple whose lives are turned upside down by a brutal assault that takes place within their new home. Please welcome Ashgar Farhadi and his translator. So congratulations to all of you on being included on this very exclusive group of films that are now shortlisted for the Oscar, and thank you for coming to Palm Springs. And to begin with, I just want to ask you, and anyone can feel free to interject if they have something to say, but I'm going to point questions at individuals so that we can make sure to cover some key points. The first thing I want to talk about is just what inspired you to make this specific film and what it was like trying to get it off the ground. And to begin with, Xavier, your film was inspired by Jean-Luc Lagarce's play, Juste la fin du monde. I'm sure my pronunciation is terrible, but
it's fine.
How did you first come across that, and why did you feel that was something you wanted to make into a film?
I didn't. I mean, at first it was a friend of mine, an actress who was in my previous film, Mommy, who years ago, before we shot Mommy, before I shot Tom at the Farm, it was actually, I think, in 2011 or 2010, she mentioned this play in which she had acted, that she had had the pleasure to act in, and she said, you have to read this play, this is for you, this is material that's just cut out for you, you have to read it. And I brought it home. I actually brought home her own script from the year she had been in it, and when I read it, I didn't relate to the material immediately. It was confusing to me how, because we are so close, her and I, and we always love the same things. We love the same painters, we love the same poets, we love the same filmmakers, the same storytellers, and then suddenly she was giving me this play where the characters were very harsh, the vernacular, the style of the playwright was very, very specific, very stylish. And I didn't understand it, I didn't relate, and I put it aside, and I thought maybe one day I'll get it. And then years later, like 5 or 6 years later, 5 years I guess, I had bumped into Marion Cotillard and Léa Seydoux and some of the actors who would be in the film later, and I thought I need this vehicle to bring these people together, because I wanted to very badly to make a film with them. Well, not very badly, but I mean, I wanted it very bad. And when I came home, I thought this is the opportunity of giving the play, giving it a second read, and maybe I didn't get something. And then the second time around was the good one. I just really suddenly understood all the pain of the characters and the love they had in their hearts, which wasn't obvious the first time. Maybe that time because I knew in my mind and in my heart and in my head who would be playing the characters. There were faces and energies in mind. Anyway, that's how it happened.
I want to ask Claude. You have a background in animation, but entirely in shorts before this film. This is your first feature. I think prior to this, the longest would have been roughly 8 minutes. So this is a big jump to go from 8 to about roughly 70. And I guess I just wonder, how did you wind up feeling that Gilles Paris' young adult novel was the one to use as the vehicle for your first feature? Why was that the one?
C'est un peu la même histoire que Xavier, c'est Cédric Louis avec qui j'avais fait plusieurs courts-métrages, qui m'a fait lire la nouvelle.
Claude did several short films with him, and he made him read the novel.
And I'm going to ask you more in a moment about just logistically how much harder it is to do a feature perhaps than a short, but in the meantime I want to turn to Ajgar. You were preparing a Spanish language film that was going to star Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem. This was very much in the works when something caused you to say, I want to postpone that and tell the story that you tell in Salesman. And I just wonder if you can pinpoint what it was that made you do that.
من قرار بود اون پروژه اسپانیایی رو کار کنم و طرح و هنرپیشه و لوکیشنش هم دیده شده بود، آماده بود.
I was supposed to be working on that Spanish project, and the story and the locations and the production was pretty much ready.
من برای یه فیلم قبلیم بود، فیلم گذشته، و این تحقیقات این پروژه اسپانیا چند سال بود که بیرون از کشورم زندگی می‌کردم.
For my last film, The Past, and for the research and preparations for the Spanish project, I had already spent several years outside of my own country.
و یه سفر رفتم به کشورم و احساس کردم که دلم میخواد بمونم اونجا، یه جور دلتنگی پیدا کردم.
I took a trip back home to my own country, and I had this feeling of homesickness. I suddenly felt I needed to stay there. I wanted to stay there.
یادم میاد وقتی این حس رو پیدا کردم زنگ زدم به خاویر و بهش گفتم، اون خیلی تعجب کرد.
And when I had this experience, when I had this feeling, I called Javier and explained it to him. He was quite taken aback.
اون گفت که ما برنامه‌ریزی کردیم، همه چیز رو منیج کردم، ولی گفتم که قلب من بهم میگه که باید بمونم توی کشورم یه فیلم بسازم بعد بیام.
He said, you know, we've planned all this, we've been managing it, and I replied, but my heart tells me something else, so I need to stay in my country, make a film here, and then come to you.
بالاخره همه هنرپیشه‌ها و تهیه کننده و کمک کردن که اون پروژه اسپانیایی بیفته عقب و من فیلم فروشنده رو بسازم.
Ultimately, the cast, all of them, as well as the producers, helped me to postpone the Spanish project, and I was able to make The Salesman.
و الان دارم روی اون پروژه اسپانیا کار میکنم.
And I'm now working on this Spain project.
Eric, the story that's at the center of the King's Choice is, I would assume, taught throughout school in your country, and I just wonder, is it something that's always intrigued you? Is there a reason why, you know, has it been told before? I would imagine in Norwegian cinema that it's been dealt with, but why did you feel an urgency to revisit this World War II era story?
First of all, I would just like to thank you all for being here and this wonderful festival. You know, you guys, I've been at once before and I appreciate it. And being able to go into foreign language movies, I would just like to say, great, thanks. Watching historical, epical dramas is probably something I've been struggling with before. I don't say that they bore me at all, but I see constructed stories put up. I see actors in costumes. So in a way I was intrigued to go into that genre and see what can we do to fill it with life. How hard would it be? The other thing is the story. I was presented for the story by my producer, Finn, who had read a book, who got deeper into that story, which we all were taught in school. What we realized was that it was much more dramatic than we heard. But most of all, I was really not interested in portraying a king or an institution like a king. So I needed to go to see what are sort of the humanism in this. Where do I find the most interesting perspective? And that was the king, and it was a story about his son, the later king Olav. Most of all, I was stunned by that it was so dramatic and so that they were so close on being killed by the Germans. And finally, going into the story, there hasn't been made a movie about it. We needed to go into all sort of resources to see how, what was it about the story, what could we find of fact. And we ended up by being allowed to talk to people who were among them, even the princess, which is the king today's the sister, who remembered every detail of those 3 days. And at that time I realized that we could put it together and make a story which was not like a black and white story of heroes, but show him as who he was. A human being confronted in front of a huge moral question. What do you do when you have to decide to declare war and bring all the young people into war and sacrifice their lives for democracy?
Thank you. First, I want to just confirm that I'm pronouncing, it's Hannes, right? Or Han? What's the problem?
I thought that you meant pronouncing Uwe, because Uwe is also a very strange name for you. I don't know why. But Hannes is right, yes.
Okay,
and you're hot?
What?
Yeah, hot, yeah. Or Scott, yeah.
Oh, Scott. All right, so Hannes, your film is an adaptation of an international best-selling novel. This one came out in 2012, same title, I believe. And I just wonder, was this a situation where you read it and you knew right away this should be a movie and you wanted to tell it, or did somebody kind of come to you and urge you to do this? What was the?
What do you guess?
This is not the sort of predicting I do.
100 points. 100 points. You can get your car. No, no. It was. I'm a normal, intelligent man, and coming from Sweden. I was offered it, and as a normal, intelligent man coming from Sweden, I rejected it because. Nobody can as a director can say yes to shoot a international bestseller, because so many of you aggressive book lovers will hate the film, and you can be very aggressive.
And you've seen this recently in Out of Sweden, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, right?
Exactly.
A whole bunch.
Exactly. So I said no, and the producer Annika left. But she also left a copy on the table, and as I'm a poor guy, I took the book, took the novel, and I read it the same evening. And I told her during the meeting that I didn't like the story, because the story sounds so predictable. It was like this grumpy old man meeting this young Iranian woman, and then he becomes nice. It's like it's not moving. But then I read the book, and the morning sun came, and I was and I called her, and I said that I really wanted to do the book, because I write Xavier my own stories, and this was my first adaptation. So the thing was, I found this love story. It wasn't a story about a grumpy old man becoming nice. It was a grumpy old man filled with love. Love is his thing. He puts love much at the point. So he's like Romeo taking the poison to come to his wife, and that was the strong part. And then I could see my parents in the book, because as a director, if you direct a book that you haven't written yourself, you must have a kind of personal reflection to it. And when I was young and it was raining, and have you been to Sweden? It's raining a lot. So I went to the family album, and there was the black and white pictures of my parents before we children came and screwed their lives. So they were so much in love in those black and white pictures, and now I got the opportunity to shoot the love of my parents. Yeah.
Well, each of you faced some major obstacles along the way to winding up with very beautiful movies, and I just want to see if we can dive into how you overcame them. And Xavier, I think one of your biggest challenges you sort of referred to a moment ago, in that the play that you were adapting has such long monologues, portions of it are very abstract. You really had to go in there and be an architect and restructure this whole thing. And so I just wonder, how you went about that, how long it took, just what was that process like?
It was so the thing about Jean-Luc Lagarce is that he is dead. So there's not much of a communication with him saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" The experience that I had before, where I adapted a play, was with someone, with the playwright, and there would be these back and forths, and I would just show him the new scenes, and it was, of course, it was something mutual. I knew I would be alone for this, and one of the first very important decisions, I think, is, now a lot of it gets lost in translation, even if I've tried very hard that the subtitles would mirror the style, the weirdness of the oddity of the language. But a lot of it gets lost in translation. But if you're French, or if you are Francophone and you hear these people talk, you're like, we don't really speak like that in real life. There's something very theatrical, very stagey about it.
To and who and all of that was an issue.
Yeah, and the language of Jean-Luc Lagarce is very repetitive, very heavy-handed, very. It's almost as if he's writing in subtext. It's always what people think and what they feel, and there's a lot of it, and there are huge detours, and it's very loquacious, and they express themselves very precisely, I mean, in a very nervous way. In life, we suppress a lot of things, we stutter, and then look at each other, and things don't always, come out as we want, as we like. So the first decision about adapting the play was that we wouldn't lose this. We wouldn't lose the vernacular and the style and the language, because losing it would have been losing Jean-Luc Lagarce, would have been losing the legacy of this author. And a story of a man traveling home to say to his loved ones, I'm going to die, is something tragic to that family, but something trivial to the rest of us. It's another one of these heartbreaking stories that happen in so many families and homes, but to the rest of the world, it's not very significant. It's just one other anecdotal death. And what was unique about it when I read the play was the style and language, and I didn't want to lose it. And that's what I told the actors. I told them I don't want to rephrase that and reword it so that it suddenly makes sense to you. I want it to be a collective challenge for us to learn to embody and channel that language and the spirit of Jean-Luc Lagarce in a way that will be accessible to the public. So that was the first decision, and the second one was much more of a structural decision. The second half of the play is very, very vague. It's like people on the characters are on stage, and they're not, you don't know if they're in the same room or not, and they're calling each other's name, and they're looking up like that, and we needed to get a lot of precision to the context, if you want, and a circumstance to the second half, so it would be climactic. So the first one was almost copy and paste, and the second half was a lot of work and the lead character had all these monologues that gave us those key informations and elements and way into this intimacy and into who he is. Because it's the story of a man who goes home and doesn't say a word. He just listens to his family ramble and just and make reproaches and scream at him. And he's trying to talk, and there's not an opportunity, there's not a moment where he actually can. So this monologue in the play was giving us access to who he was. And in the film, I knew it would be sort of clumsy and a bit, hand-handed. So we lost it and replaced it with something a bit more visual, which would be flashbacks into his past. And it happens only 3 times in the film, but that was our way into the character's mind and his own past.
Yeah. Claude, you guys had a challenge, a construction challenge of a different sort. You had to create 54 puppets, many handcrafted sets, with only a little bit of help from green screen, I know, for backgrounds. This whole process I want you to talk about, because it sounds from the little that I can understand of it to be pretty painstaking, and I mean, you have to love what you're doing to do this. So maybe you can talk about what it involved and where your patience comes from.
Alors le livre déjà est une chronique avec beaucoup de personnages. Donc le premier travail, ça a été de simplifier l'histoire et choisir les personnages.
The book is a chronicle with a lot of characters, so the first goal was to simplify the book and the characters as well.
Et puis après, ça a été le choix esthétique sur les personnages, d'avoir des très grandes têtes, aussi très simples, puisqu'on avait un tout petit budget, donc il fallait pouvoir animer rapidement et aller aux émotions du personnage.
We had a small budget, so we had to simplify the characters in order to develop the story of the movie.
Et Gilles Paris, donc l'écrivain, voulait pas rentrer dans le script parce qu'il est écrivain et il pensait que le cinéma c'est autre chose.
The writer did not want to do the screenplay because he said it's something else.
Mais il a dit une très belle chose, il a dit vous pouvez faire ce que vous voulez avec le livre, puisque il faut le traduire et je comprends qu'il y a... Mais ce que je demande, c'est que vous restiez fidèle au personnage.
Well, I give you carte blanche for the movie, but you have to be very close to the feeling of the characters.
Et donc c'est ce travail de fidélité au personnage et de simplification qui a guidé après tout le travail.
So fidelity to the character and simplification of the character guided me to do the work.
Ashgar, your film includes references to sort of seedier sides of society. That the previous occupant of this apartment where the attack occurs may have been a prostitute. Then there's obviously the crime itself, which is disturbing, and then the way the sort of retribution is sought. And I just wonder, what's your sense, in the making of it, and subsequently, has there been, resistance to just the focus of the story itself, or did you feel you sort of were free to without there wasn't a resistance to what you were the kind of story you wanted to tell here?
قبل از اینکه اینو بگم، اینکه چی شد این فیلم رو ساختم، داستانش به نظرم یه چیزی رو روشن میکنه.
I think before directly answering you, to explain what prompted my making this will clarify.
من سالها پیش توی تئاتر در واقع بودم و تئاتر خوندم و فکر می‌کردم برای همه عمرم توی تئاتر میمونم. هیچ موقع فکر نمی‌کردم بیام سینما.
Many years ago I was in the theater. I'd studied theater and I imagined I would remain in the theater for the rest of my life. I'd never imagined I'd be in the cinema.
ولی اومدم توی سینما بعد از یه مدت که توی تئاتر کار کردم توی سینما اومدم و همیشه آرزو داشتم برگردم به تئاتر.
But I came to cinema after some time of working in the theater. I came to cinema, but this wish to return to the theater had always remained in me.
هیچ موقع این فرصت پیش نیومد، چون برای تئاتر نیاز داشتم 1 سال در واقع زمان خالی بشه که بتونم تمرین کنم، بنویسم.
And the opportunity never arose because for a play I really needed a whole year to write it, to rehearse it.
و یه احساس بدی بهم میداد. همیشه احساس می‌کردم که یه کار ناتموم توی زندگیم وجود داره.
And there was this weird aftertaste. I felt like there was this unfinished thing hanging over me.
بعد فکر کردم شاید توی فیلم بتونم به تئاتر نزدیک بشم.
And then I thought, well, perhaps there's a way of coming closer to theater inside of film.
و دنبال یه داستانی بودم که با تئاتر در ارتباط باشه.
And I was looking for a story that could have a relationship to theater.
این داستانی رو که الان بهش اشاره کردی از سالها پیش توی ذهنم بود.
The story you're referring to was one that I had carried with me for many years.
در ظاهر یه داستان یه زن و شوهره که خیلی ساده دارن زندگی میکنن و یه اتفاقی زندگی اونها رو بحرانی میکنه.
Which superficially is the story of a man and woman that are living together quite happily, and a single incident creates upheaval in their lives.
ولی چیزی که برای من جالب بود این موقعیت دوراهی اخلاقی بود که اون وسط وجود داشت و اینا نمیدونستن کدوم راه رو باید انتخاب کنن.
But what interested me was the moral choice that they were confronted with, dilemma that they were confronted with, where they didn't know which choice to make.
و مثل فیلم سپریشن باز احساس کردم که همون در واقع روزمرگی باعث این دوراهی ها میشه.
And just as in a separation, my feeling was that again, it's the mundane and daily things that lead to these kinds of moral dilemmas.
من نمیدونستم این زن و شوهر شغلشون چیه.
What I didn't know was what these two characters, the couple's job was.
بعد تصمیم گرفتم به خاطر اون میلی که داشتم به تئاتر برگردم اون هنرپیشه باشم.
And then I decided, based on my desire to somehow go back to theater, that I would turn them into actors.
و وقتی مرگ یک فروشنده میلر رو انتخاب کردم همه چیز عوض شد.
And when I chose Miller's Death of a Salesman, suddenly everything changed.
چون توی مرگ یک فروشنده اون بعد در واقع شناخت اجتماع در اون دوره نیویورک خیلی در برجسته است و این به فیلم منم سرایت کرد.
Because in Death of a Salesman, that aspect which has to do with investigating society in New York at a certain time is very strong, and this actually affected my making of my film.
یه جوری آرتور میلر غیر مستقیم رو داستان من تاثیر زیادی گذاشت که اون بخش اجتماعیش پررنگ میشه.
In a way, indirectly, Arthur Miller influenced my film and made the societal aspect of it much more reinforced.
Thank you. Eric, you're King in King's Choice, played by Jesper Christensen, who some people will remember in America from Quantum of Solace, the Bond movie. If this role wasn't played by someone great, your movie could have fallen apart. So I just wonder, what was it about him that made you feel he was right for this? He really had to anchor your whole movie.
Well, he was sort of my premise for doing the film, that he were attending it.
How do you guys, have you worked together previously?
No, not that much. We have met a couple of times. But how I'm working with my movies is working quite a long time before with actors, looking to see how I can finance taking shooting time and putting into time with actors. And I know a lot of actors don't like preparing, probably because they have had bad experiences with it. But just to be together, working with a script, looking, searching to see what's there, gives us, an opportunity to open up when we're shooting. And for Jesper, as well as for some of the other actors, it was just like that we were able to allow us to do stuff in front of the camera, which I needed to be able to get this sort of sense and feeling by having longer takes, allowing them to create and shape the scene and just try to capture it as it's happening there and then.
So you had a long rehearsal period before?
Yeah, like 12 weeks.
That's wow.
Yeah.
That's very unusual.
And I've done that. My last movie with Juliette Binoche and Nicolas Coster-Waldau and a lot of others, sort of also quite busy actors. They love to do it if you have a plan. And I would just like to recommend more of my colleagues to try to be able to get that situation going on, because it's a shame that when I'm working on theater, I can have like 8 weeks with actors, but when we are doing a movie, it's so strange. I mean, we should have 12 weeks with actors. I mean, it's strange.
You think it's just ultimately a money issue? People expect to be paid more in film than in theater?
Well, I think it's more like a convention. When we do films, we have actors for 3-4 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. I've even had actors presented to coming in almost on the set, and I just resist. We need to work with this, and even in the smaller parts, it's important that we know the material.
Hannes, you have a different acting, different challenge with your actors in that you have your main character portrayed by 3 different actors, different stages of his life, and we see him as a very young man, as a very old man, and in his prime, I guess you would say. And I just wonder how were these 3 actors, did you bring them together to figure out how this guy's going to walk and talk and make sure there was some coordination, or did you approach it in a different way? It's an unusual situation to have not even just sort of brief flashes of him in these different periods of his life, but pretty sizable chunks in A Man Called Ove.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry. No, it was a challenge. I didn't have the 12 weeks. I also like to not rehearse, but I like to spend time with the actors to talk about the project and come into the right feeling and so on, but not rehearsing lines and so on. But I had this 3 actors playing Ove with 3 different dialects also. Gothenburg, Stockholm and northern part of Sweden, so that was a struggle for me. But the middle Ove, the 15 to 30 Ove from Stockholm, he went down, so he sat beside me at the monitor watching the elderly Ove working, so he can come into the right moods.
Xavier, you've worked several times before with the cinematographer on this film, Andre Turpin. On this film, you and he seem to have made the decision to shoot almost everything in pretty tight close-up. And I don't know if it maybe is to reinforce the claustrophobia that the character's feeling going into this uncomfortable. I'm just very curious why you made that decision, because I think anybody that watches it, you quickly notice that.
Well, it wasn't, Andre and I always discuss many things ahead of photography. There are many things that we can, decide on, but of course things keep moving and we must adjust ourselves. And in the first 3 days, we find a lot of things, and a lot of things that we thought we could be finding are not found, and so we have to just embrace it and accept that we have to keep moving. And one thing that became clear is that any wide shot looked like we were filming theater. And I wasn't afraid of theater, clearly. I loved it, and I wasn't afraid of theater in the dialogue or in the style of the language, but we felt this instinctive and natural need to just get closer to the characters, and with actors and actresses of this quality and humanity, you don't want to miss a thing. And there was so much information and humanity and so much going on in their eyes, on their faces. It seemed like we were filming the subtext that the playwright once was writing directly. This was the only way I could think of and find to mirror this sort of irony. It's when you read the play, it's like the playwright is telling you all that I'm doing, this style, this vernacular, how I'm writing with so many words. I know it is ultimately useless and pointless, and this is the irony of this vernacular, is that people talk endlessly and we say so many things, but the essential remains muted most of the time and untold. And that's, I mean, I don't want to spoil the end of the film, but if you buy the play, it's actually on the back cover, and it tells you right away what happens. It's not really the end that matters. It's the whole journey of the characters and all these detours that they use. And getting very close to the characters seemed like a cinematic and visual way to equal this irony in the writing, because suddenly you would see everything that went through the eyes of the characters, all the silences, all the secrets that traveled through their eyes, and all of the subtext. I guess you understood that there was another stream of communication underneath the words and the verbal. The non-verbal was we could only access through these close-ups.
Very interesting. I want to come back, Claude, to the topic of just the process of actually just how the things that we see on screen in your film were created. So just take us through, literally, you have materials on a table or whatever. How did you guys make these puppets, these the things that we then, how does stop motion work? Pretend I'm a complete moron, which I'm close to maybe, but how does it come to be? It's an amazing art form.
Mais peut-être ce que je peux dire, parce qu'après techniquement c'est toujours un peu difficile d'expliquer comment on fabrique une marionnette, mais c'est que les personnages, les marionnettes que vous voyez à l'écran, c'est vraiment un mélange entre le visuel de la marionnette, la voix de l'enfant qui a joué, et l'animateur qui ensuite passe avec le non-verbal et qui s'appuie sur les voix. Donc c'est vraiment en trois temps.
It's difficult to explain the technical aspect of marionette and go into details, but there are three different points which are very important in each character.
La voix.
The voice is extremely important. The design of the character itself.
Et puis
and then the feeling that you want to project of
l'animateur, celui qui va faire bouger.
The person who is going to animate the marionette is going to be the third character.
Et c'est l'équilibre entre ces trois étapes qui se passent de manière complètement discontinue qui fait que ça marche ou que ça marche pas à la fin.
And it's between those three things you have to find a balance for those three things. And if you don't find the balance, it doesn't work.
Right. And you're talking about a marionette. Are we talking there's literally somebody, how are these being moved? How are the characters being manipulated? Is it something that's there and you're just tweaking it? Or is it somebody that's got a hand in I mean, how does this work?
Non, alors qu'il y ait un personnage ou 12 personnages à l'image, il n'y a qu'un seul animateur qui travaille sur le plateau.
There is only one realizator working on the set.
Animateur.
Oh, the person who is animating the marionette is on the set, right?
Ouais, il y a un ou plusieurs marionnettes, il n'y a qu'un animateur.
Pour plusieurs marionnettes? Non, pour chaque marionnette.
Non, pour toutes les marionnettes.
Oh, okay. I learned something. There is one person who animates all the marionettes.
Oh, wow.
Donc après, il faut trouver des animateurs qui sont bons pour les scènes, les close-up, et il y en a d'autres qui sont meilleurs pour animer des groupes.
Some of them are better to do the close-up of the marionette, and other better for the group of marionettes.
Mais après, pour rebondir un peu sur les questions qu'il y a eu avant, on a fait un gros travail de 6 semaines sur l'enregistrement des voix.
We did before 6 weeks of work on recording the voices of the characters.
Et on a créé un groupe d'enfants qui ressemblait au script et on les a fait jouer toutes les scènes dans l'ordre en découvrant l'histoire.
Oh, we got a group of children who look like actually the characters, and we made them rehearse, but in the order of the story, so they could discover the story sometime.
Et donc on avait après 30 heures de rush et en fait on a construit un peu comme une fiction avant de fabriquer tout le reste, l'histoire à partir des voix.
So we built after the voices, we did the story.
That's great, thanks. Ashgar, I just wonder how familiar are people in Iran with Death of a Salesman, because this is so central to your, maybe even just subtextually in your film. And did you ever consider having a different play be the one that they were performing while this was going on in their lives?
من موقعی که داستان اون زوج رو داشتم و بعد نمایشنامه رو پیدا کردم.
I had the story of the couple, and it was only later that I found my play.
شروع کردم نمایشنامه‌های زیادی رو خوندم، نمایشنامه‌های از سارتر، از ایبسن، از ویلیامز و رسیدم به آرتور میلر که دوره دانشجویی یه بار خونده بودم کاراشو.
I read a lot of plays. I read Sartre, Ibsen, Williams, and then I got to Arthur Miller, plays of his that I had read while I was a student.
خیلی شوک شدم، مثل یه هدیه بود از طرف آرتور میلر به من.
I really was shocked. It was as though it was a gift from Arthur Miller to me.
خیلی چیزای لینک های زیادی به این داستان بود با مرگ یک فروشنده.
I saw a lot of connections in this story to in my story to Death of a Salesman.
آرتور میلر بیشتر کاراش دو تا ویژگی مهم داره.
There are two specific characteristics of most of Arthur Miller's plays.
یکی اینکه کاراکترها جنگ بین کاراکترها جنگ بد و خوب نیست.
One is that the conflict between the characters is not between good and evil.
همیشه توی تراژدی های کلاسیک دیدیم که دعوا بین بد و خوبه.
In classical tragedy, you see the conflict being between good and bad.
و شما تکلیفتون به عنوان تماشاگر روشنه چون دلتون میخواد که اون خوب برنده بشه.
And you know where you stand as a viewer because you want the good to win.
تراژدی مدرن دعوای خوب با خوبه.
Modern tragedy is the conflict between the good and the good.
این چیزیه که آرتور میلر توی مرگ یک فروشنده داره، دعوای بین خودش و پسر، بین ویلی لومان و پسرش، بین خوب و خوبه.
This is what Arthur Miller brings to life in Death of a Salesman, the conflict between Willie Loman and his son, good and good.
شما نمیدونید کدومشون اگر پیروز بشن خوشحال میشین.
You can't say what would make you happy, which of them being the victor would make you happy.
در هر صورت شما ناراحت میشین.
You're going to be chagrined in both cases.
ویژگی دوم کارهای آرتور میلر اینه که اینکه از چه زاویه‌ای ببینیدش بستگی به پرسونای خود بیننده داره.
What characterizes the angle from which you're going to receive and perceive Arthur Miller will have to do with your own character as a spectator.
اگه شما به مسائل سیاسی علاقه‌مند باشی اون پنجره و زاویه سیاسی توی کارش هست.
If you're someone who's interested in politics, there's a political angle in his work.
اگه فقط راجع به مسائل خانوادگی کنجکاو باشید از اون زاویه میتونید ببینید.
If your only interest is in family matters, you can look at it from that angle.
و اگر به مسائل اجتماعی، باز مسائل اجتماعی اون دوره از امریکا هم توی کاراش خیلی قویه.
And if social issues are your thing, the social questions of America in that period are quite strong in his work.
خیلی زاویه‌های مختلفی ایجاد میکنه برای تماشاگر.
This creates a lot of different angles and facets for a viewer.
و تحمیل نمیکنه که فقط از یه زاویه کارشو ببینیم.
Without imposing an angle on the spectators and forcing an angle from which they have to look at things.
خوشبختانه این نمایشنامه تو کشور من خیلی معروف و محبوبه.
It's my good fortune that in my country this play is very well known and very well loved.
هر سال یک بار اجرا میره.
It's staged at least once a year.
و مردم در سالن همیشه پره.
And the shows are always sold out.
و من آخرین بار 2 سال پیش اجرا ازش دیدم.
The last production I saw was 2 years ago.
و بعد از اون تنسی ویلیامز هم خیلی اونجا معروفه.
Second to that, Tennessee Williams is also very well known.
Just if I can interrupt, why do you think there is such a affinity for this particular production in Iran?
یه چیز ریشه‌ای وجود داره.
It's something to do with its roots.
این ربطی به نمایشنامه نداره.
It doesn't have to do with the play itself.
ایرانی‌ها و آمریکایی‌ها به لحاظ احساسی خیلی شبیه به هم هستن.
Americans and Iranians, from an emotional point of view, resemble each other.
و به خاطر همین کار مرگ یک فروشنده رو احساس می‌کنن که راجع به خودشونه، باور می‌کنن آدم‌ها رو.
And that's why Death of a Salesman is a work that they can believe.
و چیزی که برای من عجیبه این 2 تا مردمی که اینقدر به لحاظ احساسی شبیه به هم هستن توی دنیا 2 تا توسط توی سیاست 2 تا دشمن به حساب میان.
And what strikes me as very odd is these two peoples who are so similar are set up as political enemies.
و این کار میدیا هاست.
And this is what the media has accomplished.
میدیا همیشه تفاوت‌ها رو برجسته میکنن.
Because the media always reinforces the differences.
هیچ موقع نمیان شباهت‌ها رو بگن.
They never come and speak about the similarities.
Thank you. Very interesting. Sure. I want to ask Eric, in the King's Choice there, I wonder how much you have background as a documentary filmmaker, right? And I think in documentary we see a lot more handheld camera work. Is that why that might be present, sort of, as much as it is in the King's Choice? I feel like it always adds to the sense that you're actually in the moment, unpredictable. Anything can happen. There's urgency. Is that what you found through documentary filmmaking, and just how has your background in that shaped your narrative filmmaking?
It's hard to say. During the 80s, I was covering conflicts, and I think that's probably shaped me more. Watching the world in the 80s, also your country during the war, and I think I've been influenced by the fact that war is also a story about life, and it's about everything else than people killing each other. It's about the people surviving and living in the middle of it. So I think the topic and the themes has probably been influenced me more. For my early movies, I've sort of been working with other sort of film languages, other ways of working with my camera. But you're right, this film is sort of more open and more documentary style. But I must say, I see so many movies nowadays where it's like a fashion to open the camera and shake it up, and I get upset because it's not truth. It's dishonest. And we need to stop doing that. So by that sense, I told my cameraman and my whole crew that I'm setting up a rule. I want to tell this film as we are a documentary team. but we are a documentary team who wants to pretend we are a feature team. So we don't have any dollies, we don't have any camera cranes. I don't want to see them on the set. But when we are having a sort of like a track in, I want you to hold the camera as still as possible. And I want you to pretend and have a smooth movements. But what I must admit is that having a camera, just don't let that loose, of course, creates something which I think is interesting. Which of course also affects the story. I would just like to mention one thing. I think that the film is about leaders, and it's about standing up for democracy. It's not a story about the Second World War, really. It was important for me in the state of where we are in Europe right now, where we have leadership which is pretty poor. We have leaders who are thinking about a lot of other stuff than just taking the responsibility. We are at the moment in a very special time. Now, in a couple of days you will also probably get into some of what we have in Europe. But the thing is, this is a story about taking responsibility about our political leaders, what we can expect from them, and who they are in the society. That's, at least for me, that was so important to get into the story. And to be able to get close to that story, I just needed to take the audience along on that travel, get close to these people and feel their moral responsibility, but also their choices in themselves. So I would like to say that King's Choice is you will be disappointed if you just want to see a Second World War movie, because I think we have made enough of them. But if they are relevant, they say something about the time today.
Hannes, I want to talk about the craftsmanship on your film as well. It is extremely rare for non-English language movies to be recognized in the United States in categories outside of foreign language specific categories like at the Oscars. However, your film has been also shortlisted in another category for Best Makeup and Hairstyling at the Oscars. And this is the second year in a row that a Swedish film has received this honor. That one actually went on and got nominated. We'll still see with yours. I think it's the same artist that did both work. I guess I just wonder if you can talk about sometimes that when that work is done well, you actually don't, as a viewer, know that it exists because it's been done so well. So I just want to invite you to talk about that, in part because you know, it's also being recognized for that. So just particularly the makeup and hairstyling, but go with it where you would like.
I'm 54 years old. I have still some hair. I don't know why.
I'm 56 and I'm nothing.
I see that. You could
2 years time I'm 80.
You could be over. Oh, then I could take all the money from the budget to some other thing, making my actor bolder, because the actor I chose, Rolf Lasker, to play over, he had a lot of hair, 59. And I don't know what he eat. I just had the feeling that I wanted him bald, and we had kind of moderate budget. We couldn't even afford digital cats, so we used the real cats. Have you ever met a cat? Can be pretty aggressive. But talking about the balded hair, yeah, I used this couple, Love and Eva, that was nominated last year for the Oscars, and they made this balded head on Rolf Lasker, and the first shooting day, he was coming to the set like this, and somebody, stop, we're shooting here. But I'm in the film. Who are you? And then I realized that the makeup was pretty good. And I was a bit afraid of him with his makeup as well, because he was so angry with it. But then I met Rolf Lassgård every night, 9 o'clock. He's coming with all his hair. Hello, Hannes. Hello, Rolf. How are you? And so on. And as I said, our budget was very limited, so I put a lot of money into that, not hair. And every day on set, it was so fun because the crew saw that, oh, here comes money. That was a good feeling.
Very nice. Well, good luck in that category as well. I want to talk about how, when your films were completed, they were first released out into the world, and it takes a lot of nurturing and loving, and actually I think part of what I want to talk about is the important role of domestic film industries in your country, how they may or may not have been helpful. It depends. We'll talk case by case. I know some countries are very supportive about financing and then helping it to get seen by the world. Also, film festivals. We have a number of people here today from wonderful international film festivals that some of your films may have passed through. Karlovy Vary, Helsinki, we can go on and on. But let's go case by case, and if you can just talk about these launching pads. And so, Xavier, for you, amazingly, at such a young age, you've already made 6 films, and 5 of them have come through Cannes, which is as selective as anywhere. And it's quite a testament to you. This one premiered there, and it won 2 awards, the Grand Prix and also the Ecumenical Jury Prize. Talk about the importance of Cannes generally for your films over the years, and particularly with your experience there with this one.
Cannes is a very dear place to my heart, and it's where everything actually started. For me, when I made I Killed My Mother, that was my first film.
2009, but he didn't actually kill his mother.
It was actually the first time I came here in 2009 or 10, I don't remember, but it went to Directors Fortnight, and these are the people who gave me my first chance. And well, ever since, we've returned and been in various categories, and then Mommy and It's Only the End of the World were invited to compete in the official competition. It's always been very, very different experiences, very, very different from one another, but it's always been memorable in every possible way. For me, it's been very deepening, and the learnings from this type of journey are always very valuable. As for the involvement of our own respective countries in culture, in Canada we have the chance and the privilege to be supported by provincial agencies and the national funding agency called Talent from Canada, and they are extremely devoted to our identity and our culture. And it is my understanding that not every country has the privilege of being supported like that. And
you're in one that doesn't really do that.
In Canada, in Quebec, we have it's actually funny because that's an ongoing and ever-going debate that we have, culturally speaking. A lot of people don't understand why it is that culture can be financed through the people, that we can, as a people, pay for culture. They have the impression or the feeling that they're paying artists to live, or that artists are these extravagant figures that just take your money and buy, haute couture dresses. The thing about art being financed is that it allows us to travel, go to Cannes or come here and meet with other people and actually talk about ourselves as a society. As a society, we live in Quebec, and no one would ever know who we are and what we do and where we come from if it weren't for the arts, let's be honest. you hear about politicians, of course. Most of the time when you do, it's not great. Or when it is, you know, it fades away and is replaced by which other horrible breaking news that you can find. But the arts travel and the stories stay, and we look back and understand who we were. And whenever I travel, the people come to me and talk about either my movies or other movies, and they come to me and they talk about Quebec, and they talk about our accent and the things we do and the place we live in and we come from, and it's just, this is our way of communicating our story, and it is absolutely essential to the fabric of a society, and that society often doesn't even realize it until, you know, years later when they look back and understand that there is a very clear trace of who we were, and that is what the financial agencies in Canada and in Quebec help us accomplish. And it's sorry, it just seemed more interesting to talk about that than talk about Cannes.
It's a great answer,
but it's I mean, of course the festivals have been this festival specifically has been great, and
oh, well, thank you. It's a great answer. I hope the right people are listening in this country as well. So I want to turn to Cloud, whose film also premiered at Cannes and then went on to the Annecy International Animation Film Festival, which is a very important one for animated films. And there it was recognized with both the Grand Prize and the Audience Award, which is a rare 2-for. And I just wonder for you, particularly with an animated movie, which I think the assumption is that if it's animated, it must be for children primarily, but I'm not sure that's the case with yours. Just how important it has been for raising awareness and clarifying what your film is all about, just going through these various festivals on the festival circuit.
Oui, c'est vrai que le film, moi je l'ai vraiment écrit pour les enfants, et je l'ai fait pour les enfants 8-12 ans.
Yes, it's true. I made a movie and wrote a movie for children about 10-12 years old.
Et du coup, le parcours du film m'émerveille énormément. Voilà, il a pris le pouvoir.
And the movie moved by itself, and I was totally in Wonderland.
Ça a pris 4 ans pour faire le film, avec une équipe d'à peu près 200 personnes.
It took 4 years to make the movie with a crew of 200 people.
Et, enfin, pas, en tout, il y a 200 personnes. Hein, mais, et l'animation, c'est quelque chose où on a beaucoup de contrôle.
Animation, you have a lot of control in the animation.
Et une fois que le film est fini, moi c'est mon premier long métrage, donc je me rends compte que le film prend le contrôle après et on le suit là où il va.
It was my first long film after I made a few short films, I believe, and then the film has a life by itself.
Thank you. Ajgar, you were back in Cannes as well. I feel like this, look at you guys have got you've got Cannes plus a whole bunch of other movies here at Palm Springs. It's great. Who needs to go over to Cannes? But it's great. But Ajgar, you premiered in competition in Cannes, won Best Screenplay, and your leading man, Shahab Hosseini, won Best Actor. You probably by now, over the last few years, with I think you've had 3 films in this decade already, probably been to every festival there is. So talk about, for you, having gone through this cycle several times recently, why festivals are important.
من یکم نظرم ممکنه برای فستیوال خوشایند نباشه.
My opinion may not sit well with festivals.
فستیوال به نظرم برای فیلم ها خیلی خوبن.
I think festivals are very good for films.
برای فیلمسازا ولی میتونن خیلی خطرناک باشن.
For filmmakers, however, I think they can be very dangerous.
میتونن فیلمساز رو با خودش به رقابت بندازن.
They can put the filmmaker into competition with himself.
و میتونن سینما رو به یه ورزش رقابتی تبدیل کنن.
And they can turn cinema into a competitive sport.
ما فیلم نمیسازیم که موفق باشیم.
We don't make films in order to be successful.
ما فیلم میسازیم چون از پروسه فیلم ساختن لذت میبریم.
We make films because we love the process of making films.
اگر به ما بگن هیچ فستیوالی وجود نداره و بعد از فیلم سازی هیچ جایزه‌ای هم بهتون داده نمیشه، ما باز فیلم میسازیم چون ما از عمل فیلم ساختن لذت میبریم.
Were they to tell us there are no more festivals and there will be no more prizes, we would continue to make films because we love the act of making films.
بعضی موقع بعضی فیلمسازا اینو گم میکنن، با سختی فیلم میسازن که لذتش رو بعد از فیلم ساختن تو فستیوالا ببرن.
Sometimes filmmakers lose sight of this. They go through a great deal of hardship in order to make a film so that they can get to the festivals.
من به نظرم باید فیلم ها رو اجازه داد برن تو فستیوالا و تماشاگر پیدا کنن، ولی به عنوان فیلمساز نباید خیلی خود آدم بره و دنبال فستیوالا باشه.
I think one needs to allow the films to enter the festivals and gain audiences, but as a filmmaker, it's not necessarily the greatest thing to attend festivals.
That's very, very interesting perspective, yeah. Eric, your film, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in a way it was unveiled not at a festival, but in a very major way in your country, because again, this is telling a major part of the story of your country. Can you share how it was first unveiled there, and I believe subsequently there was a cool North American unveiling as well. But let me take it away, please.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's the film opened in late September, October in Norway. So the international sort of festival release hasn't been yet. That will be officially. I don't think I'm allowed to say that, but so this is some sort of what we're doing right now here in Palm Springs. What we did a couple of weeks ago when we went to Toronto, and this is sort of like an international world premiere. I mean, The King's Choice is sort of the dark horse because no one has seen it. I've seen all your movies, and you haven't seen mine because it's just coming out. So, and I find that quite intriguing. I think we're just opening now. We're just getting the first international reviews. They're coming in a couple of days. So, but when it then comes to the domestic opening in Norway, it was quite extraordinary because I was sitting in my car during the summer, Friday evening, driving, and suddenly I had a phone in my car, a mobile phone. I answered it while I was driving, and that's not allowed in Norway. And there was a voice, he said that Mr. Poppe, yeah, this is from the royal castle. And then I recognized the voice. He's sort of the head of the whole castle. In a way, he's the king's boss. He's the guy running his business. And he said, I've just been talking to the king, and we wonder if you mind that we screen your film in our park, downtown Oslo, the big park surrounding the castle. We open the park and we invite everyone to come. And we screen the film a couple of days before it opens in the cinemas. What do you think? And I called my producer, Stein, which also is here. I said, well, let's get back to you. Maybe, I think, yeah, maybe we'll fix it. I just called him, what was crazy was what this was, and then I said yes. What happened is that they made this huge screen, outdoor screening, and 12,000 people showed up, sitting on the ground, on the grass, surrounding them. So the park was full, it was packed with people. And everything was ready, and even the medias just got into it. So it was recorded live on all the news. And we were standing there, and then, in the middle of the crowd, came from the castle the king, the queen, their whole family, the one to be the king, you know, crown prince, everyone came, and they just walked in, just among everyone, 12,000 people, no security, no guards, they just walked in between, and they sat down, besides me here, towards the film. And it was just like, you know, they hadn't seen the film, so they didn't really know how critic I was, or because it's not a story about a hero, it's about a human being. And it was deadly quiet almost for 2 hours while the film was lasting. And then by the end it was an applause so big that the king was just crying and crying and crying. And what he said was that for the last hour I watched my father on the screen. So it was, you know, it was remarkable.
That's amazing. Awesome. Hannes, you guys were more of a surprise for the way that A Man Called Ove was unveiled. Also, not opting not to do the festival unveiling, but in a way that I don't know. I guess the closest thing that I'm familiar with is sometimes if you go to Telluride Film Festival, they have they put TBA, to be announced, on the schedule, and you go there because you're just curious. You trust that they have good taste, they're programmers, and sometimes you get wonderful surprises. How was A Man Called Ove unveiled in Sweden?
Fantastic. I must ask Eric before.
Yeah,
sorry. Norway belonged to Sweden before. Anyway, you talked about this Mr. Trump, but I just have this question.
I didn't mention his name.
To my mind.
I learned yesterday.
No, but what do you prefer? What do you prefer? Do you prefer a democratic chosen Trump, or do you prefer a king where you can get the job by, you know, by producing another son and another son? What do you prefer?
I prefer democracy with all its flavors, and of course, just have in mind that when we got rid of you guys out of our country in 1905, and we realized we needed a king right away, so you don't came back, you regret it. If you have a king, you're a country. So we asked the young Danish prince to be our king, but he said, on a democratic way, I will be your king if your people want me. So if they elect and want me, then I will be coming. But to remind you, I will not be the king on the top like all the other kings and the Swedish king. The society is supposed to be like this. On the top are the people. They are the one who are running the country. Under are the parliament, and on the bottom am I. I'm your servant. So whatever is good for Norway, I will do it. So he is a quite different king than your king.
If we have an election about our Swedish king right now, there will be no king in Sweden. And he was good during the tsunami in Thailand. He was good. So he was quite good. He lost his father when he was very young, and it was he was really needed.
All right. So how did your movie come
out? Sorry. Yeah, it was quite a surprise. It's if I.
It's called Lucian. It's called Lucian Night. Is that what it's called?
What's that, Lucian Night?
What's the program that it was part of?
Yeah. It was a kind of secret opening during Lucia. You know.
Every year.
Santa Lucia. It's come from Italy, with the candles in the hair, and the Nobel Prize winners. The day after they get the prizes, Lucia is coming into the hotel rooms, and Lucia, and they're so scared. from this girl with the candles. No, they are showing this film this night and started this bus. But it's. If I were supposed to pitch, I want to do a film about a grumpy old man becoming nice. I would never have.
Because the audience there is pretty young, and you were afraid they wouldn't.
Exactly. But A Man Called Ove is Sweden's third most seen film ever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think it passed stick better than Star Wars.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
And that was a joke in my family. I told my children, I'm going to be Star Wars, and I did.
You did.
Yeah.
And also, you know, if you need another additional proof that it can play with any age, we got that today.
Exactly. Talking about festivals, what the goods and bads with the festivals. Today I was forced to go to a high school and show this film about this old man.
Yes.
Exactly. 1,000 high school students, and I was there. You're going to see a Swedish film now, comedy, and it was the best audience ever. And I've been like seeing audience of this film from Tokyo to Moscow, LA, New York, Minneapolis, everywhere. But this audience today was so fantastic. I don't think that they're ready to go out in the world.
That's great. That's great. It's a nice compliment for Palm Springs. The last thing we'll do, and this is going to be, I think, brief but important, is, you know, again, the thing that brings us together is that you are all on this Oscar shortlist. Some years, you know, I'm gonna table this thought for a second and just come to this point, which is that we'll go one by one. Xavier, Canada has twice previously submitted films of yours for the Oscar. 2009's I Killed My Mother and 2014's Mommy. And I say these titles because you should go and find these and watch them. I'm going to do it for anywhere else it's relevant as well. But they were not shortlisted. So I wonder, does that make this all the sweeter? Now you've waited, you've made some great movies. You're now on the shortlist and potentially going to become only the 8th Canadian nominated film in history. How does that feel? It's got to be pretty special.
I didn't even know these the numbers of the 8 anyway. Yeah, it's you know, it's a very sweet. It's I guess very rewarding and surprising as well. We thought that we really didn't think this would happen. So it's been, you know, certainly a great way to start the year. And well, in the past, there's been, you know, Mommy, and when Mommy was Canada's entry, I was, of course, very proud and happy. And you know, it's always disappointing when you're not chosen. But the truth of the matter is, I think we're just hopeful for everything. But I'm also in the middle of I've shot half of my new film. And we're gonna last summer, and we're gonna shoot the other half in Prague and London in February. So it's right around the corner. So in either way, those are two very inspiring scenarios. So right. I don't really know what's going to happen.
No bad options.
Yeah, it's actually just in itself to be here tonight is great. As we thought that. Yeah, no one was really talking about this film, so
it's great. Well, good luck. And Cloud, for your first feature film, this is pretty special recognition. Yours could potentially become the first Swiss film to receive an Oscar nomination in 26 years. You've come. I guess similarly. What's the meaning of all this for you? Again, first feature film. You can't do a lot better than this.
Oui, et surtout j'étais très heureux et très surpris du choix audacieux qu'a fait la Suisse pour nous présenter avec un film d'animation pour enfants dans cette compétition.
I was very happy and very surprised, and Switzerland selected me with that animation for children movie.
Which is very rare, by the way, animated
Totally.
films being submitted, because again, I think there's maybe this bias. They think you can't have gravitas or whatever that the Academy is looking for, but there has been some precedent for it. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you had anything else to say, please go ahead. No? Good.
Non, je suis très
No
content,
problem.
très fier et ouais, je suis le film.
I'm very happy and very proud.
Good, you should be, and good luck to you. So, Ajgar, Iran previously submitted 3 of your films for the Oscar. 2009's About Ellie, 2011's A Separation, and 2013's The Past. About Ellie and The Past were not shortlisted, but of course A Separation won, I think, every award in the world, including the Oscar, and very deservedly. That was a first for Iran. What does it mean to you? What did it mean to you in Iran when it happened that time? And what would it mean, for this continued recognition now?
تاریخی اون اتفاق افتاد خیلی مهم بود.
The fact that occurred was very important.
دوره‌ای بود که ما به دلیل در واقع رابطه در واقع ایران و امریکا خیلی رابطه پیچیده‌ای شده بود به لحاظ سیاسی.
It was a period during which the relationship between Iran and America had turned very complicated from a political point of view.
یک کسی اونجا رئیس جمهور شده بود تو کشور ما که خب خیلی از مردم در واقع مشکل داشتن باش و دوره سختی بود برای ما.
Someone had become president in our country with whom, for better or worse, many of the people of Iran had difficulties and it was hard for us.
و همیشه خبرهای بد راجع به ایران تو جهان به خاطر اون در واقع آدم منتشر می‌شد.
And there was constantly negative news about Iran being published all over the world.
و وقتی این خبر در واقع اسکار اتفاق افتاد، هم موقع که نامزدیش اتفاق افتاد، هم توی فیلمنامه هم نامزد شد، برای ایرانی‌ها یه معنای دیگری غیر از سینما داشت.
And when this Oscar event took place, when the film was shortlisted and the screenplay as well, for Iranians, this really held a much more profound significance.
انگار که تونسته بودن یه جوری در واقع دوباره اون چهره فرهنگی که خودشون دوست داشتن ارائه بدن به دنیا.
It was as though they were permitted to again show their own cultural identity as they saw it to the world.
من خیلی خوشحالم که اون اتفاق با فیلم جدایی در واقع افتاد و خیلی چیزا آموختم.
I'm very happy for what happened for A Separation and I learned a great deal.
من وقتی برگشتم اولش نمیدونستم که چه اتفاقی میفته و برام یه هیجانی بود ولی بعد خیلی چیزها در واقع شکل عوض کرد.
At first I didn't know what would happen and of course it was an excitement, but then there was some shape shifting. It shifted its shape after that.
من وقتی با اسکار گرفتم بعد رفتم یه مدتی پاریس و بعد برای اولین بار برگشتم ایران.
After I received the Oscar, I went to Paris and then went back to Tehran for the first time.
به هیچ کس نگفتم دارم میام ایران. خواستم بی سر و صدا برم اونجا.
I hadn't told anyone about my arrival. I wanted to get back into the country quietly.
اون آژانس هواپیمایی که تو پاریس ازش بلیط گرفتم ولی یه ایرانی بود که تو فیسبوک به همه گفته بود.
But the agency where I bought my ticket in Paris was an Iranian and he'd announced this on Facebook.
و بعد من توی هواپیما نشسته بودم و فکر می‌کردم که الان میرم فرودگاه خیلی راحت میرم خونه.
And there I was on the plane thinking I'm going to land at the airport and go home.
و کاپیتان هواپیما منو صدا زد من رفتم پیش کاپیتان نشستم توی هواپیما.
And the captain of the plane called me to come and sit beside him in the plane.
و بعد گفت که پیغام دادن از فرودگاه تهران که فرودگاه شلوغه و فرهادی نباید زیاد بمونه چون بلاز امنیت سخته کنترل کردن مردم.
And then he informed me that they have transmitted a message from the airport saying the crowds are so out of control that there's some security concerns for Farhadi.
و من گفتم کسی نمیدونه و فهمیدم که اون خانم توی این فیسبوک این کارو
And there
کرد.
I was thinking no one knew, and then I realized that this woman had put this on Facebook.
وقتی وارد فرودگاه شدم و اون جمعیت رو دیدم که از شهرهای خیلی دور هم اومده بودن، تازه فهمیدم که این فقط یه جایزه نیست، یه چیز یه معنای دیگه برای مردم داره.
When I entered the airport, when we landed and I entered the airport and I saw these crowds, many of whom had come from other cities, I then realized that this award had a really different meaning for the people.
رابطه من با مردم کشورم یه جور دیگه کرد. من در واقع یه ثروتی پیدا کردم که اون ارتباطم با مردم کشورم.
My relationship with the people of my country was transformed. I was given a wealth, which is this relationship I have to the people of Iran.
و این در واقع مهمترین ثروتیه که در کل زندگیم دارم، این رابطه‌ام با مردم.
And this is the most valuable thing that I have in the whole of my life, this relationship with my people.
That's a great, beautiful answer. Eric, you've been through this cycle before as well, right? I just wonder for you, you know, how you found out about this news that you've been shortlisted again, and that also the idea that in the history of all of this, you could well become only the fifth Norwegian film ever to be nominated. This is a significant thing, as we've just heard the example in Iran. But you know, for a country's film industry, it's transformative, right?
Absolutely. It's strange to see what Oscar has become. One thing is what it actually is, but its reputation. We discuss it every year on radio and TV, probably in all countries, at least in Norway. There are panels. Who do you think is going next to win this year? It's just like we are the country who have been fighting and working so hard to sort of change our industry and our whole film community to see what we can do to make other movies, not to win an Oscar, but just it inspires us as well. It's been a discussion about what quality is in movies, about the stories we do, and I would say that the best thing about that Norway still hasn't got its Oscar is that we have been having like 10 or 15 years of discussion of what movie is and what a quality movie is, and for me it's really an honor to be first of all the Norwegian candidate again, but also being here, being shortlisted. I was happy, and most of all, I'm so happy and proud of the people who've been working on the film, of my actors and everyone, and of my screenwriters, and of Stein sitting here, the producer. Sort of, we're fighting so hard. We hope, one day that we will grab it. Because still we haven't had that Oscar. The Swedes has got it, the Danes has got it. We haven't got it.
If you should have stayed with us, you would.
But now this year we do have our hopes. This is the best film we've made ever, and we hope so. And finally, I would like to say that, but to be honest. I'm inspired by movies from all over the world, really. But growing up, especially with the movies from the 70s coming out of here, simple, strong, really well-told stories has inspired us all, and me most of all. So just to be here and screen the film for an American audience is something really, really special. I'm so full of respect. There is not everything coming out of this country which is in the same category, but still some of the best movies in the world are really coming out from here, and it inspires me as well. So
can I ask you, remind me, Scandinavia, what are the countries that comprise?
In Scandinavia, who the countries are?
Yeah.
Well, we have little Sweden there, Denmark there,
Yeah.
Finland there, Iceland, and then we have Norway.
Right. No, because
Beautiful Norway.
I really think it's worth noting that even your movies are terrific, and there are others that also are at this festival that, you know, Häviästä Välimaki is a personal favorite. They're from Finland. I've noticed, and I just want to know because I'm surrounded by Scandinavians, that it has really been impressive to see the quality of that part of the world cinema. It's getting better and better. But coming to our other side of this here.
Can't you skip this guy?
Can we skip? In your case, Hannes, your film has, as we said, been shortlisted not only for the Foreign Language Oscar, but also the Hair and Makeup. So we'll find out on the same day. You never know how that will work out. It'll be interesting. 2 shots at becoming an Oscar-nominated movie.
I need some help with the makeup.
Yeah. But just, you know, there hasn't been a Swedish film nominated in 14 years. You could be that one. Just, you know, what was your reaction, your country's reaction to the notion that out of something like 90 submissions from all around the world, it's already an amazing victory to be in the 9.
Sweden doesn't have that many Oscars, Eric. Ingmar Bergman has.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna, you know, it's not the country's, it's his. But now he's gone. So we really have to shape up now. And the actress Alicia Vikander did a wonderful job last year.
Yes.
So yeah, that was very great. And I don't know. I want to be the underdog, so I don't want to say so much. But of course, it's like Eric is telling. It's we are from countries with states subsidies and decided by politicians, and it's so easy. So if Sweden wins an Oscar or gets nominated, we will get more money into our business and more work for our embassies, because they don't know what to do nowadays. I've been working with film for like 35 years, and in the beginning going to festivals, you know, the Swedish embassies, they just work with ballet and chamber music and such boring things. But nowadays, movies and films have come in, getting up, being more and more important. So therefore, it means a lot, even if we just get nominated. And I think the shortlist is very long.
Yes. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming, and congratulations on great movies. See these movies. You're very lucky to have them here. Enjoy.